Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. Welcome back to Old Man Rambles. Um, and this is pretty much just going to be rambling. My recent view or watching of The Wheel of Time Season 2 and what I consider to be an awful adaptation of the book series got me thinking about adaptations. You know, what makes a good adaptation? What makes an adaptation successful? I'm just going to be talking about some films and that were adapted from other pieces of art. And I have a few examples on the screen behind me. 10 Things I Hate About You is a modern retelling of Shakespeare's Taming of the Shrew. This bit of disclosure, Taming of the Shrew is my favorite piece of Shakespeare. It's one of his lighter pieces. I prefer Shakespeare's comedies to his tragedies. And Taming of the Shrew is definitely should be considered a comedy. You know, the story of this, thorny, aggressive woman who refuses to do anything that that society wants her to do. And Shakespearean times. 10 Things I Hate About You is a rom-com, a teenage rom-com set place in the modern era. They kept the names of the characters the same, but it's instead of the father saying Kate's got to get married before her sister does, now it's Kate has to start dating before her sister's allowed to, because they're teenagers in school. The character of Kate is essentially the same, but softened a bit, I think. Certainly softened from the film that I saw with I'm blanking on the name. Elizabeth Taylor. Elizabeth Taylor played Kate in the film that I saw. So yeah, she was definitely much more I think the term is heinous bitch in that film than in 10 Things I Hate About You. And like I said, they softened it a bit. They made it modern, and it worked really well. I think Nimona is another good example. I didn't know anything about Nimona before I saw it, but after I watched it, I looked up the comic book. They changed a lot from the comic. I think it helped that the author of the comic also helped work on the screenplay, and the people who were working on the screenplay accepted her input. But they rewrote a ton of it. Changed some of the character interactions. They kept some notes of it the same, but they basically told a similar story with similar characters while deviating a great deal from the original source material. Road to Perdition, which is one of Tom Hanks' few roles as being not a good guy, is based on this. The comic book Lone Wolf and Cub. This takes place in Edo, Japan, the Edo, Japan era. And the main character is a samurai who's was framed for treason. His whole family was killed. He and his 3-year-old son Diagora are the only survivors. And they embark on a, not a trail of vengeance, but they're trying to. He takes the role of an assassin to try and earn enough money to buy his way back into the shogun's favor. Road to Perdition is, they took that general plot line, they took like a few key elements of the plot, of a character who's framed and killed off, but in this case, instead of being a minor noble, Tom Hanks' character is a hitman for the mob. So they're very different characters. Ito Ogami in the books is a very noble, samurai who's only forced to become an assassin, to seek retribution. Where Tom Hanks' character is an assassin because it pays well, who doesn't tell his family what he does for a living. But similarly, he is framed, his wife is killed off, and he's just trying to, he's trying to survive and figure out who framed him and get things straightened out. So, these are 3 adaptations that very, very strongly changed the original source material. I think Road to Perdition is probably one that changed the most. But these were all very, very successful adaptations. They were all well liked, even by fans of the original material. I'm a huge, I have the comic books. I do not have the Road to Perdition in my collection, nor do I have 10 Things I Hate About You in my collection, but not because I don't like them, just hasn't happened. But these are things where they've just deviated a great deal from the original material and still managed to come up with a great story. You can have other examples of Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy, which didn't change as much. There are some things I know some Tolkien purists are unhappy with. They're not happy with the way Sauron died. They cut out the Scourging of the Shire at the end of the novels, into the trilogy. A few things that they didn't like that they had changed, but they still loved the films, as opposed to The Hobbit, which is a travesty. I'm not sure what the hell happened there. I think Peter Jackson just wanted to make another 3-movie deal and threw in a bunch of crap that was unnecessary. Who knows? That was a horrible adaptation of the book. I've got no formal education in literature or film studies. This is all, this is just me talking about adaptations that worked and some that didn't. And because I don't know what makes one work and what doesn't. Obviously, good writing and directing helps. Good acting helps. And I think I'm just a little frustrated that they've done so poorly with The Wheel of Time. Because they had great source material to work with. They had Robert Jordan's wife and Brandon Sanderson, who helped finish out the series when Jordan became ill and could no longer work and died. So 2 people who knew the source material extremely well and were brought in to consult and were just ignored so often. You can argue that the Sam Raimi's Spider-Man films are great adaptations of the original source material. I could go on and on. There's plenty of examples of books that were made into films that were amazing, that changed the story. Mary Poppins, famously, P.L. Travers hated the Mary Poppins film. He had the cartoons, he had the music, but it's still a great movie, despite the fact that the author hated it. That's something that shouldn't have worked because it was a beloved children's story, and Disney made it more beloved by changing stuff, by softening the character, by adding more friendly family stuff, by sugarcoating it. I don't know. I guess, and still frustrated about The Wheel of Time. I needed to ramble about it more. I needed to complain about it more. I needed to give examples of people who did well, even deviating from the source material. And they just should have done better. So I guess this is just me ranting about The Wheel of Time showrunners that should have done a better job. You just want to smack them. So I've just rambled on for a few minutes. Thanks for watching. Good hunting.